Hello and welcome to the RIA Tech podcast brought to you by RIA WorkSpace. I'm Todd Rocha and alongside me is David Kakish. Together, we're on a mission to simplify the complex world of technology for RIAs just like yours. Now, in this podcast, we'll be your tech guides breaking down those often confusing tech topics into plain and practical terms. So we hope you join us for each episode as we dive into the latest tech trends. We'll share expert insights and help you navigate the ever-changing world of RIA technology. So let's get started. David, what are we talking about today?
Sure. Well, listen, thanks, Todd. I want to welcome you and I want to welcome the listener. The title of the session that we're talking about today is 7 Microsoft Gems, and that's empowering your RIA for security and compliance. And actually, the subtitle that I like to use is like, these are 7 security and IT compliance features that are probably part of your Microsoft subscription that your RIA just doesn't know about that. And here's why this is important for the RIA that's listening to us. Number one is a lot of RIAs are paying for third-party tools that they're already part of their subscriptions, kind of like throwing money out of the window. So why pay for something that I'm already paying for? And then the other thing is, you know, every RIA we work with or we talk to, we want to make sure that you're able to maximize your cybersecurity and your IT compliance. And so from my perspective, the really big problem that I see is a lot of RIAs don't know that this is part of their subscription. And the worst part is a lot of, and you and I talked briefly about this before the session, a lot of IT providers don't know that it's part of their Microsoft subscription either. And there's so much that you can do. And the analogy that I keep coming back to is that people have this airplane, these RIAs have this airplane, and they don't need a new airplane. They just need a better pilot, somebody that can sit in the cockpit and know what to do. So we're going to talk about 7 things that are part of your Microsoft subscription that you're probably not using. And I can assure you, even if you think you're using everything, there's probably 2 or 3 that you're not using. And from our experience, you know, once we start talking with RIAs, most of them are, you know, they're only using 20% of their Microsoft subscription.
Yeah, and I guess it's not abnormal not using everything in your subscription for any product. And when I think about the IT pros out there and anybody else, you know, sometimes there's so much that they have to do every single day, like hundreds of tickets coming through, different equipment problems, software and infrastructure, all that stuff. So you can't blame them for, you know, just kind of missing out on this. So this is great that hopefully, you know, when you talk about these 7 things, will be, you know, some cool tidbits in there for them.
Yeah. And what I'll do is, to be clear, like we really target, when we're working with RIAs, we're working with like the managing partner or the chief compliance officer or the chief operating officer. Most RIAs don't have like an in-house IT person. So that's another really big challenge. So our messaging, we're not really, like, as much as I'd like to kind of geek out and get into the details of the technology, I'll keep it really high level so that we don't lose the chief compliance officer or the managing partner. And so we're gonna share these 7 things with you. And by the end of the session, you're really gonna, I think most RIAs, you know, if they're not, I mean, I can assure you they're probably not using 5 of these 7 things that I'm talking about. Maybe they're using 1 or 2. But by the end of this session, as a CCO, as a managing partner, you can walk away with this and either do it yourself, because that is an option. You can contact your IT provider and say, hey, I was listening to David and Todd, and these are 3-4 things that, you know, we want to have in place that we're not. Or you can contact us. We'd love to help you. But I think my goal is, I don't want you to be listening to this and then walk away and not do anything, because again, we want to help you increase your security, cybersecurity posture, and help you increase your IT compliance.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, you know, I think what I want to hear from you more, David, is, you know, the costs that people may be throwing out the window when they're kind of using this subscription, but not really knowing what it's supposed to be used for. Can you kind of dive into that just a bit to kind of tell some real world stories or kind of what you've seen so far in the world right now?
Yeah. So I first heard this story by Dan Kennedy, who's like the godfather of, you know, direct response marketing. I'm sure you're probably familiar with them, but I can't remember if he said, take $20 and throw it out the window, or take $20 and flush it down the toilet. And he goes, do that and then do it every day, and then do it every day. And how does that make you feel? Right. And you're like, well, you know, I feel stupid. I feel like an idiot. And he goes, and so I'm taking that same analogy and I'm challenging that RIA, you know, that person that's listening to us today. I'm challenging you and telling you, every single day in your business, you're taking a lot more than $20 and you're flushing it down the toilet, and you're doing it every single day, every single week, every single month. And so personally, I feel, I don't know, I feel stupid when I do that. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that that's an option. So I guess Todd and maybe the listener, some people might feel angry, they might feel, I don't know what the feeling is, but I'm here to prevent you from
yeah, I
flushing
don't like
20
throwing
bucks
out
down the
20 bucks a
toilet.
day. I mean, we're on a budget over here. So yeah, anything to save me 20 bucks a day times that, 365 days, I'll take it.
That's right. That's that's a lot of Happy Meals. That's how, that's how I measure things sometimes. So
Yeah.
all right. So again, we really, so just a little bit of context. We don't really work with very large financial institutions. Vast majority of RIAs we work with typically have, let's just say, between 5 and 25 employees, right? So and we even have smaller ones and bigger ones and things like that. But I think what happens is, because we work with these RIAs so much, we understand some of the unique challenges that they have. And the fundamental challenge that you as an RIA have that's different than that business across the street is, you've got millions of dollars in AUM. That business across the street does not. So your requirements for IT compliance, for cybersecurity, are exponentially higher than that business across the street. It's not that the current IT provider you work with doesn't care about you, or they just they're used to working with smaller clients, and so some of these enterprise big business security, it's really difficult for them to take it and apply it to an RIA with 10 employees, right? And so we tend to see that quite a bit. So I just wanted to give some context for the story to why we see that, and then I'm just ready to go down the list one by one.
Let's
and
do
then
it.
we can talk about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we've got 7 tips to keep in mind. So David, start us out with number 1.
Sure. Well, listen, everybody should be doing this. If they're not, get this done by the end of the day tomorrow, right? Multi-factor authentication for every single person on your team. So actually, Todd, let me rewind a little bit. This would apply whether you're using Google or Microsoft or Amazon or whatever, but I'm really going to focus in and talk about the people that are using the Microsoft subscription, because Microsoft in this space, they're kind of like, they're the 800-pound gorilla. It's kind of like the de facto standard. Over 80, if not 90% of RIAs, that's what they're using, right? They're using the Microsoft platform. So I'm going to really focus in on that. But again, it applies to other platforms. So number 1, multi-factor authentication for every single person on your team. And ideally, I would encourage you to use the Authenticator app, the Authenticator application on your smartphone, rather than getting the text messages.
Yeah. So I have 3 different types of authenticators, so is there any one that you recommend over the other, or is it just to have, an MFA, just so you can make sure that, again, you're adding that extra layer of security?
Yeah, it's really having that MFA to have that extra layer of security. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, whether it's Google or Microsoft or whatever, but that's just a higher level of security, rather than getting that over text messages. So if you don't have multi-factor authentication enabled for everybody, you definitely want to have that enabled for every single person on your team. And ideally, you're using the Authenticator app. Don't care if it's a Google, Microsoft, or whatever. We like the Microsoft ecosystem, but you can really use anything. So this is the easy one, right? Like, this is the easy one. A lot of people are doing it. We kind of put like an easy one in the beginning. The second one, and I am amazed at how many RIAs are paying for a third-party tool that's clunky, that's cumbersome, is email encryption. And what I mean by that, when it comes to email encryption, and maybe I'll just kind of open up my email for those of us that are watching the demo of this. So the really beautiful thing about the Microsoft email encryption is you can encrypt it on demand. There are people that are using a lot of third-party tools where you have to type the word encrypt, where you have to put it in brackets, and if you don't do it, it doesn't encrypt it, and so on. And so they're paying for a third-party tool that's clunky, that's a pain in the butt. And here I'm gonna open up. I
use Microsoft, and that's a new thing I've learned here, is the encrypt part. I've never seen the bracketing done, and so that's really helpful. So yeah, so you're gonna walk us through, because I'd love to see too, like, how do I even set that up? Is it easy?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah. You know
difficult?
what? So it is. Let me share my screen here really quick, and I'll share that. I usually don't do it on these things, but it's so easy that I want to go
Yeah.
ahead and I want to share that. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to
And
share my screen,
and for
and you
those
can
of you
look.
listening, we'll make sure to,
Yeah,
walk you
thank you.
through as close as we can.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Todd. Yeah.
But yeah, we're on video, so join us over there on YouTube and we'll get to watch us there.
Sounds good. So Todd, you see my screen right now, right?
Yeah, I see
Okay,
you got your
perfect.
email open, all that
Yeah.
good stuff.
So all that I have to do, to send out an encrypted email is just click on this button right here, encrypt, and it sends it out. That's it. It's that simple. I don't have to
That's
type
it.
encrypt in brackets or anything like that. Yeah, exactly. That is really it. It's that simple, and you can send it on demand. A lot of other solutions, third-party solutions, you have to come in here and type in encrypt. And if you don't put it in brackets, or if you don't type it, or whatever, it doesn't do that. And here it's really nice because you can encrypt it on demand. Now, the other really nice, so yes, so Todd, you want to explain to the person that's listening to us?
Yeah. So and I'm like you, ladies and gents listening in. I'm learning this stuff as I go in the encryption part. So what he actually did is he went inside of his email inbox, and at right above the email body copy, there is a button that says encrypt, and he simply just pressed that, and it automatically does it. And you don't have to do the other bracketing and all that stuff, make your life harder. It just looks like you just press a button. So I'm definitely going to be using that on my own in my own instance as well.
Yeah, exactly. And this is part of the Microsoft 365, like the E3 subscription or the E5 subscription.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that, you just need to, you need to upgrade that. And again, it's a nominal cost for that. And I don't want to get into pricing too much, but yes,
yeah.
you might have the package where you might need to upgrade a little bit, but you get so many more features that it's just absolutely worth it. So again, it's the Microsoft 365 subscription, either the E3 or the E5, not the Office 365 subscription. So
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
So what's the third one here?
All right. So the third one, and this is a really big one. A lot of people do not know that this exists.
I don't.
Is the
I've never heard of
archiving. Is the email archiving. And so in the financial advisory world, right, there's two big players, the Pepsi and the Coke. It's Smarsh and Global Relay. So if you're archiving, 90% of you are using either Smarsh or Global Relay. Nothing wrong with that. Those are two really good platforms. But if you're already paying Microsoft for the email archiving and you don't know it, you might as well use that. And I would even go out and I would argue that it's even a better solution than those third-party tools because your email is already sitting at Microsoft. And so it's archiving your emails. You don't have to pay for that third-party tools, and it's really phenomenal.
What is it? So why is it beneficial? Like, why would I?
Yeah. So a lot of RIAs, they're required, financial advisors. A lot of them are required to archive their emails in the future. Okay. If there's like an SEC audit or they get sued by a client or anything like that, they need to be able to produce that.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. And again, it's if I know Todd, you don't necessarily work in this space. I work a lot in this space. The Pepsi and the Coke, the two big players, right?
Yep.
What's the economic term? Duopoly, or
two players duopoly, yeah,
right?
It's
Smarsh and Global Relay, and historically that's what it's been. And Microsoft and Microsoft solution is actually a really, really, really good solution too. So, but anyways, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on that. So
yeah. All right, what's number 4?
All right, number 4 is Microsoft Teams archiving. So you and I at the beginning were joking. I was having issues with Zoom because I've been using Teams for so long, and I'm recording on Zoom today for various reasons. But anyways, if you're using Microsoft Teams, you can actually go ahead and you can archive that too. A lot of people are paying for a third-party tool to do that. You do not need to pay for a third-party tool to do that. You can actually, we can set that up. And again, to be fair, I should say, these are not things that are configured out of the box, right? You need to either go in and set that up, or you need to work with your IT provider to set this up, or you can contact us and we're happy to help you set that up.
Got it. And so number 5 on the list here is file archiving. Lots of archiving going on.
Yeah,
so let's talk about file archiving.
Yeah. So a lot of clients are using OneDrive or SharePoint. And one of the things that we do by default during, our clients, when we onboard them, we do a 7-year archive and then 500 revisions of a document. So you know how if you accidentally overwrite a document, you can quickly go to a previous version of that document. So
Yep.
we do that by default. Very few clients know that you can actually do the archiving. Now, people will talk about, backup and disaster recovery and things like that. And yes, you want to do that, but this is actually file archiving that meets the SEC compliance requirements. It's really fantastic. Very few people know that that's even an option that you can actually do within the Microsoft ecosystem. Again, this is if you're using SharePoint or OneDrive.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about number 6 on the list is data loss prevention.
Yes, data loss prevention. I love talking about this, or DLP, because in my previous lifetime, and this is probably, well, I was going to say 10 years ago, but it's a lot more than 10 years ago. It's more like 20. So I used to work at a security specialist where we provided security for like really like Fortune 1000 type of companies. And data loss prevention, I kid you not, you had to buy all this gear from Cisco. And then just the initial setup, like to configure it, was like, the initial implementation was over $100,000.
I was going to say it's pricey.
Yes.
It's a pricey infrastructure build.
And today, if you're an RIA with 10 employees, you have access to that same technology. We can provide that. And it's even better than what it was 20 years ago, where these big enterprises were paying all this money. So all that means data loss prevention is, if I work for your RIA and I send out an email with a social security number or an account number, it can automatically, or a passport number for that matter, whatever, it can automatically detect that, encrypt it, and send it out.
Wow.
It can also notify your chief compliance officer, hey, you know what? David just sent out an email with this. The other nice thing about data loss prevention is you can actually put in specific keywords. So we have clients, for example, that'll go in and say, hey, look, every time the word illegal or guaranteed returns is sent out from one of our financial advisors, I just want to get notified. Let that email go. That's okay. But I just want to get notified so I can just go ahead and take a look at that. So if I were to break out like data loss prevention, there's 2 levels, right? There's stuff that, oh my goodness, this, and usually it's not intentional, right? It's a mistake. Somebody will send out like a PDF that has a social security number or account number. So it'll automatically detect it, encrypt it, and send it out. And then there's another category. The second category is where your CCO, from a compliance perspective, chief compliance officer, wants to know that, hey, the reps that are sending out, things like, hey, you know what, invest in this, you're going to get guaranteed returns, right? Like that's not compliant. And so they need to have the ability to do it. And this is actually, this tool that we set up for our clients, phenomenal, very sophisticated. And we set up our clients with a baseline, but then they can really tweak it and they can get, really, they can, go deep into it. Again, very, very, very few RIAs and financial advisors know that this is something that they can go ahead and they can set up.
So on data loss prevention, I know, and I have taken so many courses working for companies that bring me through a data loss prevention training exercise. How much of the DLP is even before things are placed in your infrastructure or in your email Outlook, all that stuff? So how much training should somebody dedicate to this, like in person with team members? Or is it simply just, how often do we need to train people, I guess, is my question. I remember taking it like every quarter.
Sure. Yeah. So you're touching on a couple of things. I think your question to me is like, hey, how often do we train our financial advisors or employees, right? That's what you're asking me. Yeah. So that's part of, I would say, a broader, like we have something called, and again, we provide that for our clients. A lot of RIAs have something in place, is security awareness training. Right.
Yeah.
So if we do security awareness training and simulated phishing campaigns for our clients, but DLP is sort of part of that. And then every RIA, to meet the SEC compliance requirements, needs to make sure that they have security awareness training. We've actually done it for our clients where we use a third-party tool, and it's really fantastic. Just very short, like 3 to 5 minute videos where, hey, how to better secure yourself when you're traveling, how to better
Mm-hmm.
secure the elderly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a training, and we've gamified it in the sense of all your employees get a score, and then
Nice.
you don't want to be you don't want to be the team member with the lowest score, right? And
A little
so
bit of shaming there, huh?
it
He's
works, it
leading to it.
works.
Yeah, it does. Sure, it does. Brene Brown would probably be like, "No, we don't need to shame people,"
That's
but
right. Well, there's two categories of people that want to be at the top, right? And then
yep,
people that just like, I don't want to be the last one. I can be second to last, but I don't want to
yeah,
be last.
that's right.
So yeah, so each RIA is a little bit different in terms of how often they have that, but we have a really nice security awareness training, and that's really, part of that.
All right. And so now we're going to move on to the last part of the list, number 7. It is the always helpful SSO, or secure single sign-on. And so I know I have done this quite a bit lately, where either I sign in through a program like Okta, or I sign in. I think even Google now has single sign-on in many cases. So tell us about this, and why is it taken off so strong,
Yeah.
more in recent
Yeah,
time
well,
here.
so yeah, secure single sign-on for web-based applications. A lot of people might confuse that with like a password manager, or I would even say like a consumer-grade version of secure single sign-on
Mm-hmm.
for your web-based applications. But if you don't know what that is, let me just kind of maybe briefly talk to the listener. So imagine you come into a dashboard, and then now you see in there, you see eMoney, you see Orion, you see Redtail, you see Salesforce, you see QuickBooks Online. Me as an employee, I can just click on Redtail or Orion, and it automatically logs me in. So
Mm-hmm.
as an employee at that RIA, I am a lot more productive because I can just go ahead and do that. Now on the back end, it's a lot more secure because it's tied into my Microsoft Active Directory account. So
Hmm.
from a productivity perspective, we hire Mary. Mary starts working at this RIA. She logs into her computer. She goes to that web dashboard. Now she has access to all these web-based applications. Okay. I don't know, 3 years from now, Mary leaves, we disable her main account, and she can't access her computer. She can't access the web-based applications. She can't access her email or anything like that. So again, much more productive and much more secure. A lot of people are familiar with like the consumer grade that like Chrome provides, right? And
Yep.
and that's okay, but this is more enterprise grade, right? Like this is kind of like the consumer versions on steroids, where you can actually do a lot more with that. And so again, we do this during our onboarding process with our clients, but a lot of RIAs don't know that you can actually do that, and it's really a phenomenal productivity tool. I use it every single day, but it's also it really, really helps from better securing your web-based applications. And so there's a couple of ways to set this up, right? You can set it up for employees so they don't know what their credentials are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can allow employees to kind of set that up. I guess I don't want to get too much into the weeds because it's
Sure.
easy for me to do it, but
Mm-hmm.
again, I want to keep in mind that as a listener listening to us, they're not an IT person,
Yep.
they're an executive, right? That wants to know, hey, how can I apply and use that technology? So
Yeah.
I would say, Todd, out of these 7 things that I mentioned, I kind of put the multi-factor authentication as like easy number 1. I think a lot of people are doing that, but
Yep.
2 through 7, so the 6 other things that I mentioned, very few RIAs are using all that. If you are, pat yourself on the back because you're in the minority. If you're not,
Gold star.
these are yeah, exactly. If not, these are things that you could really use in your practice.
And I guess too, just real quick to wrap that up, since a lot of it is now remote work too, and so these executives are dealing with employees who may not be in the building, so to speak.
Yeah,
And so I would think all of these steps, probably they need to follow those now as a best practice, but now even more so because of the increased cyber attacks. I mean, you saw in Vegas those cyber attacks recently, and even in other countries. So I'm assuming this is all pretty best practice stuff that we should start doing now. And if you're not, kind of get on
absolutely.
it quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I've mentioned 7. I mean, there's a lot more that we do for our clients, right? Because you're right. People have a computer, they're working in the office, they're working at home, they're working from a hotel room, right? When they're traveling. So how do you sort of secure that endpoint? And again, I don't want, we can have separate sessions. We can talk. There's a lot of other things that we can do, but these are like 7. I don't want to say that they're easy, because I mean, like, these are 7 quick things. I'm like, look, every RIA can and should take advantage of these things. That's kind of how I'm thinking about that. There are other things that kind of gets a little bit more complicated and in the weeds, but these are things that I just wanted to mention. So multi-factor authentication, email encryption, email archiving, Teams archiving, file archiving, data loss prevention, and secure single sign-on for web-based applications. Those are the 7 as a recap. If you're doing all 7, congratulations. If not, go for it.
Yeah. So, all this information, how do we enable or activate these RIAs to do, what are the next steps that they can take when they leave the podcast? Yeah.
So, there's a couple, 3 things you can do, right? Number 1 is you can do it yourself, right? If you're tech savvy and you want to go in, absolutely go do it yourself. If not, reach out to your IT provider and say, hey, David and Todd, we're talking about these things. Would like to get these things set up in place. And that's the second option. The third option is contact us. We're happy to help. Just go to www.riaworkspace.com and contact us, and we're happy to help. I guess what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to be complacent, because again, you don't want to be a sitting duck. You've got millions of dollars in AUM. You want to go ahead and you want to protect that. So that's probably the call to action, right? The CTA that we like to. It's like, look, either do it yourself, contact your IT provider so they can help you with this, or contact us. We're happy to help.
Big takeaway, don't be a sitting duck, folks. Just, take one of those steps, real easy steps. Well, hey, we want to thank you for listening to the RIA Tech Podcast, brought to you by RIA WorkSpace. And so, for more resources and even more podcasts as we make these, go to RIAWorkspace.com and check out the Learning Center. Now, we always want you to be a part of this conversation. And so as we're building new stories and new, shows for the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. What do you want us to talk about? What questions do you have that you'd like to be answered, or maybe myths that you want demystified? So feel free to reach out to us with any questions. You can either fill it in the YouTube comments, or just simply email us. And stay tuned for more of RIA Tech Insights on our next episode. So I'm Todd Rocha for David Kakish. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.